One
Indeed.
sec.
Indeed.
There we go.
There we are. Down it.
Sorry, bit of technical issues there. Getting on, getting started.
Yeah.
How are you, mate? You okay?
What's happening, Simon? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Everything all right?
Yeah, all good, all good. Surviving this as
Good.
best we can, you know.
Well, that's it. Me and Josh were just saying the same. You know, you've got to make the most out of it, haven't you, really?
Well, that's it. It's like as Barack Obama's chief of staff said one time, "Don't let a good crisis pass you by." You know.
Yeah. Yeah, very true.
Doesn't seem to be passing by anytime soon.
No.
Oh, well, we'll make the most of it.
What have you been up to, Simon? Have you been handling it?
The first week, my girls were off school, so we did the homeschooling. It was good, actually. We got structure to the day. You know, I'm a big believer in getting structure, getting a daily, structure in place with practice, whatever it may be. So we bought a big whiteboard, wrote on it every night for the next day's structure, and just flew through it. And we allowed a certain amount of time for certain things, and we flew through it, and we always finished the day a bit earlier, so it worked really well. What about you?
Yeah, I suppose similar. The initial piece, me and my girlfriend bought a house, so we got in the day before lockdown, so we were blessed. And then kind of like that, I think what happened was about 4 or 5 days into it, I kind of hit a bit of a lull because I didn't have that daily structure. Normally, my day's fairly laid out. I do laptop work in the morning. I coach from about 12 till 6, and then I come home and have my tea or whatever. But I was kind of lost without that daily structure. And then especially, I think it was kind of with no players or tournaments on the horizon, you kind of get a little bit like, oh shit, what are we going to do? How do we stay motivated? But then like that, I just knuckled down into a daily routine, like writing down every morning 4 or 5 things that I wanted to get done that day. And I think that's one thing that will come from this, not just for us as coaches, but for players too, is the ability to be really present and go about your business on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to having your mind like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ahead of you. You know?
It's amazing. I've spoke with a lot of people. I've done a bit of work with Carl Morris. I've done his, Carl Morris?
Yeah, I did 2 of the seminars before, yeah.
Yeah, I've done his Mind Factor certification and stuff, and they all speak about just staying in the present. You can do nothing about the past or the future, so just stay in the present. And it's a powerful thing that you want to try and get across to them, isn't it?
Yeah, and this, especially this, this is the biggest, the biggest unknown and the biggest uncertainty a lot of us will ever deal with is and especially for players. Normally they know, okay, well, at least I've got a tournament in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time.
Prepare.
But now it's like we actually have no idea when the next event will be. And especially with international travel and stuff, who knows what's going to happen,
Oh, I know.
So
I've had 4 guys text me in the last 24 hours. Like they actually don't even want to hit balls outside in their net. They just want to get playing. There's only so much hitting into a net you can do.
There
is. They
is.
just need to be on the course.
There is.
But that's kind of, I suppose, that's one of the things that I spoke with our guys on the national team about was hitting into a net is great and it's great to work on your technique, but there's definitely things that golf is such a low intensity sport and we can practice all day. We could do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours without really fatiguing. Whereas other sports don't have that luxury. Like you can't swim or you can't sprint for 8, 9 hours a day. So they would obviously do a lot more visualization, imagery, maybe a little bit more look after their body, a bit more coordination, balance work and stuff like that. So I've been encouraging our guys to kind of, if you train the same way you always did when this is over, you probably missed an opportunity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Try and tapping into something new.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I had them learning how to juggle. I had them. That was the first one. We just trying to do some balance coordination stuff. Different things. And now next week will be a little bit of visualization and imagery, just stuff that you knew it was beneficial in the past, but they kind of would have gone, I should fuck it. I'll be better off going to the range for 2 hours,
Yeah.
My one of the guys I was doing a bit of work with when I did my tendon in my wrist, he got me to buy a unicycle and try to learn how to ride that.
No way.
Because you really have to focus on that. He said, I tried it with this guy who was suffering real severe depression. And he said, go and buy a unicycle. And he was like, what do you mean a unicycle? Which, go and buy one and learn how to ride it. And he said he did. And his mental attitude just changed because it took focus. So all of a sudden he wasn't focusing on what he was depressed about.
Yeah. It's, it's like, and I think that was the thing that I wanted the guys to probably, especially initially, just to get over the first piece is like, you know, like, and I did it myself as well, but it's like that first, like, there was tantrums trying to catch the three of them, just balls being dropped. I was freaking out. I was throwing shit around the house, and then I woke up one morning and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, and I was like, fuck me, I got it. It was like the best, you know, like the best feeling I'd had in ages, and like that probably with the unicycle, the first time you're able to like keep balance for like 10 seconds, you feel like you're achieving something, you know what I mean?
Don't you just? You can feel the progression. You can feel the progression, whereas sometimes in golf it's hard to feel the progression, isn't it? Until you good score.
Yeah, and as well, like I think the girls found that too, where it was like it gives them a good appreciation for, like, when you're learning a new pattern, it's okay to be horrendous because you know it's how you learn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, and you just don't know when that epiphany is going to come. Like you don't know when that, like, you know, you actually manage to get like 5 or 6 throws together.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is like patience and sticking with it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the same. I was doing, me and a friend of mine, we were just in the quarantine, the isolation here, we just said we're going to try and run certain distances, just try and do it for time. So we tried to do 5K and as quick as we could. And the first time we did it was like 21 minutes, and we were like, just do better. The next time we went out, and we just kept doing it. And before you know it, we knocked it off in just close to 18.5 minutes. And we were like, holy Jesus, just what something does, or trying to do it. The sense of achievement is huge. And sometimes you don't get that in golf.
No, it's good that. That is good.
Anyway, we'll move on to a few of the questions that you were saying, Donald, that you were saying we were chatting about earlier on. Basically, why don't players chip good? Simon, why don't you think? Me personally, in my opinion, what I've seen on that study I did in the last sort of few months on that I showed you, people aren't aware of, you know, how close they actually have to chip it, or they always feel like they need to be very precise with chipping. And chatting to a few sort of really good players, like I was chatting to Gary Hurley there about the other day, he has a different opinion, which is completely fine. But for the player who struggles a bit, I find that their target seems to be too small. You know, the aim small, miss small. I don't believe that really works. For a lot of players, I think they have a bit more leeway to free up themselves over a chip shot, and you know, produce better results. You know, from sort of 10 to 20 yard basic chip shot, Ben Ann averaged the best on tour of just over 6 foot, or just under 6 foot, proximity. And I got players to start aiming for a target that, so 5 foot right of the target, 5 foot left of the target, that's a 10 foot square. No one is generally going to hit the ball that far offline. They actually won't. You'd be finding it very hard to someone who hits it that far offline. So now you have to worry about controlling the distance. And it changed their mindset and their approach to the shot. They then started changing the club, hitting a bump and run with a pitching wedge instead of taking out the lob wedge, and their proximity just went down to 3, 4, 5 feet. And that's the difference for them making scores. And that's what I found in the last few months with why players don't chip good. They take the wrong club, they feel like they have to be too precise, and then they get anxious and they start duffing, pinning, hitting bad shots all the time. I don't know what you guys feel about that, or what you'd see is the best way to approach why players don't chip good.
That's really interesting, that, Benan, you know, just inside 6 feet. You'd think, I think people think that these players, you know, you see proximity from the hole from a certain distance, and that's their average. Like A-time might be 24 feet. And you think, God, I thought it'd have been like 12 feet. But all you ever seeing is shots really going close. You don't see the other ones. And the 6 foot, really interesting. Me personally, I don't think they challenge themselves enough when they practice. I think you see a lot of people chuck 40 balls on a fairway and hit the chips, and that is it. Go and find the lies that you don't like, and because they'll then get a lie and they won't know how to play it. So it comes out to 12 feet and they're like, oh, you know, I'm not chipping very good, but you haven't trained on that shot. You haven't practiced that shot for, you know, for so long. And just the shot variation, the club variation, so many people, oh, there's a chip, I'll get my 56, you know, because that's what they chip with, instead of maybe getting a 50 and trying it with that, or even a wedge and trying to use the bounce properly. That's my opinion.
Would you say that links into the full swing as well when they go on the range? Just stand
absolutely.
There, 7 irons?
Just bog standard. I had a lad in here a couple of months ago, and I said, like, you know, let's go through your bag. And I said, what have you been working on? He says, I feel like I've only ever hit 7 irons for 2 years when I've had a lesson. The guy who used to see was like, get your 7 iron out. Let's work on your swing. He said, I've never worked on pitching, short game, you know, 4 irons, driver, nothing. He said, it's always been 7 irons. And I was just like, you pay.
You've seen a grip wear pattern on a 7 iron compared to some of the other clubs. Like your grip's fresh on your 6 iron.
I do a lot of data for the guys at home here, and I had 3 instances of that, just what you said, Simon, right? So I had one girl, she's on our national HP program. We were doing our end of year stat review, right?
Yeah.
And her wedge play, her wedge play wasn't great, but when I looked at her data from 40 to 60, so like 50 yards, let's say, she was unbelievable. I mean, she hit it closer from 50 yards than she did from 30, right? And it was like, if you look at her dispersion pattern, it went like this, right? I remember saying it to her, and I says, Annabelle, what's the story? What's the story there? Why do you think you're like? Why do you think 50 yards is so good when everything else is okay at best? You know? And she goes, well, I have a bin at the end of my garden, and it's exactly 49 yards to the bin. And every day I hit 30 shots, or 40 shots, or 50 shots, or 60 shots to the bin. I says to her, I goes, and her dad was sitting, like, she's like 16 at the time or 15 at the time. And I says, how long has the bin been there? And she goes, 2 years. I says, what? You've been hitting to the same thing for 2 years? And she goes, yeah. And I says, Andy, well, you know what you're doing on the way home, don't you? And he goes, well, I goes, you're stopping to buy 6 or 7 more bins because you're going to have to put them. But she, like that, she had just hit 50 yards, and she was phenomenal at 50 yards. But no variation whatsoever, and it just popped up straight away in the data. And again, another lad exactly like that. He was at the range one day, and there was a hole on his 6 iron. I mean, like the 6 iron was black, right? All the rest of the club barely touched. And when I looked at his data again, his dispersion went like this here, and then from 160 to 180, I'm back down again, right? And I was like, why do you think you're so good from 160 to 180? And then I looked at his bag. And I was like, why is there a black hole in your 6 iron, but there's no marks on the rest of them? And he goes, well, when I do technical work, I only ever use my 6 iron.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And but so it was common. But it came up in the data. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god. It's there to be shown. And like that, if he got a 6 iron, great. But like he had no adaptability or variation just because of the way he trained, you know.
Yeah.
On that note, there, Donald, what stats would you link that to, or what stats would you take off? You know, you're saying the dispersion they found about 50 actually was great. What stats did you look into now when you're discussing that with her?
I had pulled some stuff up, like Simon said, and I have a question for Simon after this. Is like, especially in short game, right, where, and especially when it comes to prep and like on your practice rounds for tournaments, is the chances of you getting the exact same chip shot that you practice on a practice round in a tournament is so low. So why anybody would hit like 10 balls in a row from the same spot doesn't make sense. But to me, because you'll have a slightly different lie, you know, slightly different slope, slightly different distance all the time. But I suppose one of the things we'll look at in terms of the data is, let's pull this up. Whenever proximity is a tricky one, right? Because proximity is like quite a hard one to train for sometimes, because it's an average, and you know you need to really hit like 10 or 20 shots for, you know, to have a a good idea of it. But so I use, for inside 50 yards, we call it, I got it off the guys from Gameforge, but we use what's called P6 percentage. So P6 percentage is the percentage of time a tour player will get inside 6 feet from a given lie or a given distance. So I pulled up a couple. So for example, from 10 to 20 yards on the fairway, a tour player will get 64% inside 10 feet. From
10 feet or 6 feet?
6 feet.
Right.
So from 10 to 20 yards on the fairway, they'll get 64% of those shots inside 6 feet. From 10 to 20 yards in the bunker, they'll get 40%. So they're 24% better on the fairway than they are from the bunker, in the same distance range. But what I would try and do then with the guys, if we were training, if it was like a performance session, is I would set up 10 balls, varying lies, varying distances, like so within ranges. Do you get me? So it's trying to replicate as best we can, a slightly different distance, a slightly different range, and then they'll, like you were saying, Josh, at least they know going into it, well, I don't have to get 10 out of 10 inside 6 feet. You know, I got to try and get 6 or more. Do you get me? And it's a realist. It's giving them realistic expectations. So
yeah. And what I discussed earlier on was, I said to the players, I gave the sort of 5 foot square either side, so the 10 foot square to hit. I said, every one of them was so arrogant and said, I'll knock 10 in a row, no problem. But then I had a smaller 2.5 foot square either side of the hole that was inside it, and when I said you have to hit inside that, they sort of got a little bit more anxious. And when they hit to the 10 foot square, they got more inside the 5 foot square than they did. They're going for the 5 foot square. That sort of just showed that they freed up a little bit more. They changed the shot they were going to play to hit it close. When they go for the 5 foot square, they feel like they have to hold it. And they were hitting balls 15, 20 feet by. And I was like, why do you need to hit it so aggressive at the hole to get it close? And then they start looking at it a little bit differently. And that's where I sort of zoned in on changing their shot shape, changing their shot type, and changing how they played the shot. And their results improved. And that's all we can do is make the results better.
Funny how you say that, because I've got the rings and, you know, the really fine wire ones. And I've found, same as Josh, that when I put the 3 foot one radius, I find that not many players get that. Yet when I put the 6 foot radius in, like what you're saying, I find that they can't miss, but most of them are in the 3 foot anyway.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's really interesting. I was reading this book at the minute called Tiny Habits by a guy called BJ Fogg. He's the professor in Stanford for behavior design. And the main thing from the book is if you want to change behavior, you have to make it really easy and really small, so that you get that sense of like, so his thing is behavior is equal to your motivation to do it, your ability, and then the prompt, right? But if you go back to what we do, is like, if somebody feels like, okay, right, you have to get your 10 yards away, and your goal is to get 6 out of 10 inside 10 feet. When it's so easy, they start to, oh yeah, I'm being successful. They're, you know what I mean? Like they're, how would I put it? Which kind of goes against, it goes a little bit against the whole post-train ugly thing and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I think that sense of like being successful, improves results, you know. And I'm not sure where it fits in that, like, you know, train hard, play easy thing. But I actually think as a coach, when you're trying to elicit good behavior from a player, you actually need them to feel a little bit of success, you know, as long as the environment's representative. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Can I just tell you something? When I was with Pete Cowan, he used to take, I started with him when I was playing for Yorkshire. And I remember this one, like he did it yesterday with us. He used to just put 2 sticks down, probably 10 yards apart. And he'd say, can you hit a 9-iron in between those 2 sticks? And we were like, yeah. He's like, right, who wants to have a go? I was always like, I'll have a go. You know, yeah, that's easy, 10 yards. He went, yeah, but what you've got to realise there is, if you've got your distance right, you're hitting it inside 15 feet. You've got your 5 yards. So if the pin was in the middle, he went, you're always going to fail to hit the pin. He said, but all of a sudden, like you do with the 4 points, the 10 metre squared, all of a sudden, you've got a target. It's like hitting it at a goal. You could score and you're giving yourself a bigger margin, but it's still going to be, your results are still going to be great. Like you say, it's a very ugly thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the things when it comes to, you know, the chipping thing, like you were saying, Josh, and like, well, why do people chip bad? You know, maybe a part of the reason why people chip bad is because they don't actually have a realistic expectation of what good is, and maybe they don't. You know, I think sometimes, and I know I've been guilty of this as a coach in the past, is I think sometimes we overestimate how difficult something is. Like what Pete was saying, where he's like, well, he's doing it's such a simple but smart thing to do. He's instilling the confidence in a group of guys that, you know, you guys are all capable of being good ball strikers. Look, you can do that task, and if you get your distance control right, all of a sudden now you're consistently hitting your 9-irons within 15 feet. So now you've got a group of players that are going, you know, that are like this. They're like, fucking, we're good enough to be good ball strikers. Where sometimes, like, I know I've been going, oh, you know, the standard's so good, and the standard's this and the standard's that, and you have to work so hard, and you end up in some ways disempowering the players and you know, taking away a little bit of the belief instead of like instilling it in them, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, like I had a lad, I do the stats proximity with more longer iron shots.
Sure.
But I get number one. I find out who number one is on tour. So this lad's hit this shot, and he's come off it a bit, 8-iron. He's like, oh, I don't like that. So I was like, what don't you like about it? Well, I didn't hit it great, and, you know, it's not very close, is it? So I said, let's go and measure it. We measured it, and it was like 2 foot outside of the best on the USPGA's average. Yeah. And I told him, and I said, look, this is 2 foot outside. And he was like, oh, right, it's not that bad then, is it really? I went, no. I said, if that's your bad shot, you know, your good's going to be inside 6 foot. So I went, if that's your bad, you're doing all right. And he almost give him a little bit of, oh, yeah, nice one.
How tolerant were you at your best, Simon, when you were playing? Like, do you reckon your expectations were realistic? Were they, like, you know, were they outside of what you would have, you know, where do you think you sat on that spectrum?
I've got to be honest, I think they changed, like, week to week, month to month. I think there was weeks where my expectations were so low. Paris National, I never played good round there. And I went there one year, and I just said to my caddy, do you know what? I'm just going to keep it in play. There's no point in me trying to do anything fancy. I never make the cut round here. And I finished third. And I'm like, and I bogeyed the last to not get in a playoff. And I was like, how have I just done that? But my expectations were so low. So even hitting a 9-iron to 25 feet, I was like, all right, I'm not bothered about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So interesting,
like,
yeah.
Isn't it so interesting?
Yeah.
Weeks, I remember having a good week, and then I went to New Zealand to play in a tournament, and I was like, I'm going to win this. Oh, I'm playing the best I've ever played. And I missed the cut. And I was playing so good, but I was taking on shots that I look back now and I was like, what are you doing taking that shot on?
I know. It's
but
like
expectation was sky high.
It's like that thing is like, it's like sometimes good enough is good enough. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think I know I struggle with this sometimes, is like, you know, and like the acceptance and expectations sit on a seesaw, and it's like where you can get that seesaw to balance is like going to be your sweet spot. But if you tip it too far either side, it's really tough. And it's like that. It's like, you know, sometimes it's just instill, and that's something, you know, for go forward for players. And like the study you did, Josh, is like, if we can actually teach players that you don't have to be like that, you don't have to be amazing every week. Here's like, give them realistic expectations, get them to come up with some kind of a strategy to match those realistic expectations. You'd like to think you'd have guys that would be like a lot more confident, a lot more, how would I put it, with a lot more belief in themselves on their bad weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you'd know more about this than us. Surely there's no player at the top of the world or the best players at the time. Surely they have the most self-belief than anybody, and that's they mightn't be the best driver of the golf ball, but they believe they are. So that goes a long way. Surely.
They do. But like Donald said, their acceptance is off the charts. And I tell this story all the time. When I played with Ernie Els in Australia, his acceptance was, I learnt more from him than any other golfer I played with, because he'd make a bogey and then he'd go bang, bang, birdie, birdie, next 2 holes. And I'm looking at him going, how do you do that? I need to learn how to do that. And I literally taught myself how to do it. I was like, right, here's my chance. I've just made a silly bogey. Let's see if I can make birdie. And I did it so often just by thinking about it. But he was the best by a mile.
My story, Ernie Els, was my friend of mine was doing the scores in the tournament, and he hit a big hook into the trees. And he said the first thing Els said was, well, if I can hook it into the trees, I can hook it out of the trees. 100%.
Brilliant,
yeah. I love that seesaw. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah.
Expectation and acceptance. That's absolutely brilliant.
And I've seen that. Funny, going back to what you said, Josh, that was one of the things that probably surprised me the most. Like, I obviously never played anywhere near like the level that Simon did or anything like that. But as I kind of got working with better and better players as time went on, one of the things that I've always found really interesting is the best players in the world. I would have grown up thinking like that they've got so much self-belief, they're so confident all the time, they're thinking amazing. But I've found one of the most interesting things is a lot of them actually like don't. A lot of like the guys that like I've looked up to are breaking it the same as everybody else, but everybody else would have been like have real like low self-confidence at times. But it's kind of like Simon says, is like they have high, like they just accept it. They accept that they're shitting it, and they accept that.
Yeah.
And they just they get on with it. They're like,
I saw a picture, and I'm dying to find this picture. And if I find it, I'll send it to you both. And it was the World Match Play about 10 years ago, and it had shot tracer on all the tee shots. And you can't believe the deviation on all 64. It was like 30 yards right of the fairway to 30 yards left. And underneath it said, if this is the best 64 in the world, why do we all strive for perfection? And I just thought, that is so true.
Yeah.
One of the best things Sky do was when you're watching just featured group and you see where they hit it, they don't all flush it everywhere down the fairway, middle of the green. They hit it all over the place.
And that's the perception of the top players. We think they're perfect and they never miss a fairway and they never miss a green, but it's far from that, isn't it?
It goes back to there's the question that actually I kind of was like, I've been playing around with this for a while. Is like, obviously I go away with players to tournaments, like say we've got European Championships or World Championships and stuff like that with the national team, and then just with individual players. And I watch how they go about preparing on their practice rounds and stuff like that. And it's always struck me at times that, like, and I listened to a podcast with Daniel Berger, and he had kind of a fresh take on this, but I'm interested to hear your point of view. Is like the chances of actually getting the chip shots that you practice for in practice rounds in tournament is so low. Like, and based on what we know is like, we know you never really flush it. Like, you're going to hit some dodgy shots when you do miss screens. The chance of you predicting exactly where the ball is going to finish and to what pin is so low. What would you say is the best way, or what would be a fresh take on how to prepare your short game on practice rounds?
It's a tough one, that, because he's right. You're never going to get the same chip shot. You're not. Me personally, I like just getting players to hit one of the three. Fairway, short, rough, bunker, and measure proximity. I know sometimes you can't really measure that, but measure the proximity and then kind of just get them to hit one every hole.
Yeah.
I'll choose the chip. It doesn't necessarily, there's a runoff there. Yeah, but you might miss it this side because you don't want to go in the runoff. So, but always every hole, so they're hitting 27 chips, and just get them to do that and almost give them a target of how many to get up and down and have a little bet with them, put a bit of cash on it. golfers hate losing cash.
Yeah, I think that even that alone is a good point. Where make your practice rounds. I would like make your practice rounds somewhat competitive. That's probably a better source of preparation than hitting like 4 or 5 chips from the fairway, 4 or 5 chips from the rough,
with no meaning to them at all.
Exactly. Yeah, is like actually in practice rounds is to like add. It's like sometimes I think players spend too much time preparing for shit that they can't prepare for anyway. If that makes sense, is like wasting a fucking bunch of energy hitting 27 short game shots around the green when the chance of getting one of those 27 so low. Where they'd be far better like having a 20 quid bet that they'll get it up and down and feeling that little flutter and that little bit of squeeze on them. You know what I mean? And seeing, you know, like where are my routines at, you know, kind of control my nerves, etc., you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%. Anyway, shall we move on? The best on-course training inside 50 yards you can do. I know, Donald, you made this stat to me before. I thought it was fascinating, and I've used it countless times since. You're saying on tour, players generally don't leave themselves between 50 and 80 yards because they hit it just as close as they would from 80 to 120. So unless you can get your approach out inside 50, they lay it up outside 80, which I think is amazing. And I look into it a bit more and I see they very, very rarely do players have between 50 and 80 yards into the green. So practicing from inside 50, what would you recommend, or what do you do best on course for that?
The best one, the most interesting one there was a friend of mine, Mark Sweeney. He got all of Tiger's approach data from last year, and was the last 2 years. But Tiger never leaves himself, like pretty much never leaves himself a shot from 60 to 90. So like it's like the amount of shots that he has in the different bins. So like, you know, the different like 0 to 10, 10 to 20. So he has like quite a few shots, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 40, say like 40 to 50, and then it goes nothing 60 to 80, and then it creeps back up again at 90. And when you look at the proximity data, there's no real difference in scoring or in proximity from the best players in the world from about, going off the top of my head here, I'd have to check it, but I think from like 65, 70 all the way out to 110. So like there's no, so if a player has to lay up, there's actually no benefit in pushing to get it from, say, 110 to 70, as opposed to they may as well just leave it at 110. But once you get inside 50, it just like nosedives. It's like how, you know, they get up and down, maybe, you know, they might average 2.8, so they get up and down 20% of the time from 60 to 120, and then they get up and down 60% of the time from inside 50. So that, and then the other one that I think that's the other one that came up on that as well is like the top 10 players in the PGA Tour compared to the bottom 10 players in the PGA Tour, they go for it 33% more often on par fives and gettable par fours. And then obviously if they're going for it 33% more often, they're inside 50 yards 33% more often. So that's where the payoffs come from. In terms of on-course training, I think we covered a little bit of it. I'd be interested to hear your and Simon thoughts. I just think variation and competitiveness is probably the way to go.
I like the variation. I mean, I speak to Stuart Morgan quite a lot, and he loves the dice. So bought these from a game, Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a dice, and it's literally 10 up to 90. And literally I'm saying every hole, right, what number have we got? But now I know that you know, the 45, 50 to 70, I might just wipe that out and just say 70 to 100 or 50 to 30. Roll the dice, right, here's your shot. Talk me through your shot, and there's your variation. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. I think go on, Josh. No, go ahead.
It links to on course, or how courses are laid out. Apparently, I was looking at it, and the course I've checked, the danger is generally 60 to 80 yards away from the green, or 60 to 90. There's a lot of danger, and that's why players lay back before it or carry it over the danger cell, which goes into it. Your strategy links back to where can you lay up to. A lot of players lay up with long irons or 3 woods. Like I'm laying up, they're hitting a hybrid. Why are you doing that? if you're either going for it or you're not, inside 50 or lay it back to your number. So strategy will improve drastically with that in mind of avoiding the sort of, whatever it was, just like 60 to 110 yardage or whatever, 60 to 90 yardage.
Yeah, pretty much from 60 to 120 ish. I have to go back and look at what the exact numbers, but I think to Simon's point of the variation and rolling the dice on it and stuff,
it's great.
It's a great idea. It's like, yeah, and I think
Stuart Morgan, I just think it's genius, really, because it's taking the choice away from you. It's like, right, this is my number.
James Seekman says something very similar to that about short game. He says, you can actually ruin a player's confidence. They're standing there chipping the basic chip shot before they go out. They feel good. They can achieve that. Then they go out on the course and they have the same distance chip shot if the ball's above their feet and they have to hit it over a bunker. And now I've no idea how to do this because I can do the basic one, but I just haven't got that.
It's kind of like, it's almost, when you think about it, right? And I think this is where there's definitely a paradigm shift coming in golf over the next while, where it would be like a cage fighter going in and training with a dummy that stands in the middle of the ring with, like, you know what I mean, in one position all the time. It doesn't hit back, and you're just punching it, and you think like nobody can touch me. I'm so fast and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden, then you go in the next day, and there's a real live opponent against you, and this guy, you're like, fuck me, this guy hits back, and then you don't know what to do.
My attack's amazing, but terrible.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I think that's like that thing of like, you know, propping down a bucket of balls and hitting the same chip shot 20, 30 times in a row. It doesn't make sense, you know.
No.
And like, so.
But you can't believe how many still top class golfers still do it. I went to the Scottish Open. It's got a mega short game, and I'm just watching these lads just hitting the same shot all the time. And don't get me wrong, I used to do it, but now I've stepped away and looked deeper into it and how practice should be and the effectively. To me, I'm looking at them thinking, you're crazy. You're just wasting hours of your day.
It's like I was chatting to a couple of guys yesterday, and I wonder, like, I look at a lot of the top players, say, like, you see like Xander Schauffele, you see Tiger, you see a lot of guys who say maybe their dad was a big influence on their game growing up and stuff. And one of the things that, like, when you have that big influence growing up is like, if you have because you can't, most people wouldn't be able to afford to have a coach to be there with them every practice session, every time they play. But when they have like a parent who's like takes a deep involvement, it's almost like the parent creates the atmosphere of like throwing balls down, making them hit shots from different places, you know. And I would wonder, sometimes I think about it and I go, that probably plays a big part in development that we don't even think about. It's like by chance that if you have a dad or a big brother or somebody who challenges you and makes you like go into these different plays games, which consistently, you know, puts you in those positions, that's got to be a big factor in how a lot of these top players end up with the skill levels that they have, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just remember when I was growing up, my dad had walked 9 holes with me. I did it in a bunker. First thing he'd say was, "Go on, I'll give you £1 if you get up and down."
There you go.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I remember it like it was yesterday. And that was the best part of my game growing up, my bunker.
Yeah, and that's like, it's these little environment design things by chance that we don't even think of, but probably have a big bearing on, like, even remember Harrington did a talk for our national teams last year, the year before, and he spoke about how one of the reasons that him and Shane and Paul don't have such good short games is they, like, every event where the three of them are there, they're killing each other around the short game area for 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever the case may be. And they are trying to find the toughest shots that they can find. And
so all of a sudden, the bog standard 15-yard chip.
Yeah. These lads are going into the bush to hit shots against each other.
Yeah.
Well, watching Shane Lowry practicing the short game is one of the best things you've ever watched.
Yeah, he's impressive, isn't he?
And he won't stand there at a basic chip shot. He'll give himself the toughest shot and try and get it close. Brilliant.
And then I suppose there's a question for you. I suppose if we look at now, like say the young guys that we help and stuff like that, and the kids that we see coming up, is like, how do you design that environment for them? Like knowing that you can't be there all the time, is like, how do you design an environment that produces that?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want them to have fun. I've spoke with the guy who's led Better Junior Academy, and he's like, it's all about, fun, but there's got to be an element of learning there as well. It can't all be messing about and, we're having a great time. There's got to be some learning. It's a tough one. It is a tough one. What would you think would be the best way?
I think one of the things that I think I probably underestimated too. I think it's really interesting. I think if you can explain, especially kids kids love to compete, and that's usually what makes things fun. And I think that the longer you can keep that part of it, and you explain that you explain that that's an integral part of getting better. I think that you were saying, like, you watch some of the best. You see some of the best players in the world doing that, like just hitting the same shot over and over and over again. Well, I have a sneaky suspicion that wasn't the kind of practice that got them to where they are.
Not one bit.
If that makes sense?
Yeah, 100%.
It's
like
just
follow the herd.
Yeah, it's like I think we start off with this, like, you're out with your mates, your dad, competitiveness, like fucking like, right, come on, let's get this one back for a quid. I bet you can hit this shot and you can't. I bet you. And then you get out on tour and you see, like, you see somebody that you really respect plop down a little bucket of balls, hit 20-yard shots over and over again. You're like, oh, fuck, right, well, that's what I'm going to do as well. So I think what I would do is, a change that I would definitely make over the last 3 or 4 years is to encourage that competitiveness and try and make my training sessions fun. Like, I remember being on the putting green with a couple of the girls I've worked with on, like, the LPGA, and everybody else is out there Murray, like, and we do a bit of technical work there, and they're like,
yeah,
and like my crew are over like, fuck, shit, like, because they're playing a game and they're cursing like crazy and losing their mind, and I think I love that. That's what I think, like,
they're replicating what experience on the course, aren't they? You haven't got a mirror on the course trying to hit the perfect stroke. Yeah. My mate keeps sending me videos. He holds 100 6-footers every day. 100 6-footers. And then he went and played a pro-am in Portugal and he putted terrible. And he said, why do you think I'm putting terrible? I went, because you're only practicing 6-footers. I went, you get on first hole, you got a 20-footer downhill left to right. How do you know what you're going to be doing? Why aren't you practicing those? But that's what to do. Like you say, I prefer your way.
I was at the Open there watching Molinari working with Dave Allred, the last Open. And the first round, Molinari struggled from inside 8 feet, I think it was. So they set up a drill and you could see it. I was very close. The putting green was great. He had to hit on a ghost hole and a tee past the hole. So he had to hold the putt, roll around the hole, stop it before the tee. So he had to hold at good pace. And you had to do 3 in a row from each tee. And if you missed, you had to go back to the start. And he wasn't allowed to go in for his lunch until he achieved it. So he was standing there and he got the third tee back and it was his third putt and he had the hole and he missed it. And I've never seen a man so disappointed in my life. It's literally his head just dropped. He was like, he has to start again. But it was really great sort of on-course or performance training. And it's probably what helped him win his Open is working with Dave Allred on his performance-based stuff. And I think that's the best way you have to approach it. There's no point in practicing a putt that you don't struggle with.
And it's funny too, though. I've seen the flip side of that too, Josh, where I've set up, like, I think we've all been in that. I suppose, and I'm sure Dave probably does this really well, but like, I think you have to explain before you do a real hard performance game like that. You have to kind of set some goals in terms of, right, here's the drill. What's your goal? Not in terms of finishing the drill, but like what behaviors do you want to display? Like what values do you want? Because I've had it before where I've set up a drill and I thought this is a good one. And then I'm going, oh, fuck, like, there's absolutely no chance that they're going to finish this. Like, you know what I mean?
Try to put her in the bin and walk off.
I was like, I'm kind of sat there going, right. And this is like maybe at a tournament where I'm like going, right. If I make this easier, they're gonna know that I'm like not believing that they can get it done. But if I leave them go at this, their confidence is absolutely goosed here. So, you have like finding the exact challenge point is tricky.
Yeah.
You know?
And Simon, what performance drills do you like the best to see? Obviously, it depends on what part of your game you're struggling with, or what do you do best with your players, or what do you like your players to be able to achieve in a performance drill?
I just we talk about what they want to achieve out of it. Maybe not the habits, maybe not their emotional habits, but certainly what they want to get out of it. You know, they'll come to me and say, you know, I'm struggling at this. I'll have a look at it, and then we'll set some challenge up, cones, flags, trackman, things like that. But I love taking them out on the course, you know, and giving them rewards. Right, at the fairway, we're going to go forward to 150 yards, and miss the fairway, we're going to go to the number that you don't like. So all of a sudden, it gives them the focus off the tee, and you find it a lot. You know, all of a sudden they're thinking, right, I need to hit this fairway because I want to get to that number, and they hit the fairway. But I really like the on-course stuff. I said at the beginning of this year, that was one thing I want to focus a lot more on, getting them on the course and replicating what they're going to be experiencing on the course. So yeah, I like.
You can experience that hitting 7 irons in the range, though, can't you?
Exactly, and I'd get just as bored as they would if they were just hitting 7 iron after 7 irons. You know, what massive change are you going to see there? Nothing. Whereas you get them on the course and say, right, I'm going to put you here. Talk to me about what shot you're going to hit and why you're going to hit it, and then watch them execute it and just turn around and go, God, that was mega. Way better than standing in a bay shelling 7 irons.
Yeah, I think as well, like the nice thing about that too is we play when we're doing with the girls, like we do a game called Dealer's Choice. So Dealer's Choice is basically whoever has the best score in the previous hole can call the game on the next hole, if you get me. So they might go like, all right, this hole.
Games.
Yeah, so like we kind of do like a modified points game. So it'll be like, they can actually, like Stableford, but they can call where the points goes. So say, for example, you might get to a tough hole and one of the girls who's like pretty straight might go, one of the guys who's pretty straight might go, right, it's 4 points for a par, 6 points for a birdie, and -10 for a bogey. So now, like, everybody starts like getting a bit squeezy on it. Or else they might go, right, well, this hole you can only use 2 clubs. Whatever they can, whoever has the best score in the previous hole can call the next hole. And kind of like Simon says, it's like, it's so refreshing, and these would all like it's so refreshing to see elite level players and high level players that are can sometimes be so you know, trying to be perfect and do the right thing and hit the right positions, actually out playing and having fun and like you know back into absorbed in the sport again almost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, being kids again.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I would love to see. That's what I love to see in the players that I work with, is that in the biggest occasions that they're still being themselves, if you get me.
Yeah.
Like that they're out there, like even if it's like, you know, you get a sense that they're actually just playing the game and enjoying it and being like, and that's something that I think that's something that you have to train, kind of like Simon says. I don't think you can train that hitting 107 irons on a range. I think you can only can only train that on course.
Yeah,
brilliant. Great. Okay, looking at the time, right. Simon, you've got a guy at 4 o'clock, and that's great.
Brilliant. Thanks many guys. Been really enjoying it. Do it again soon.
Send me an email. I'll send some stuff over because I'd like to pick both your brains. To be honest.
Will do.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks, Simon. Talk to you later, man.
Have a good one. Bye.
See you later. Bye.